Hey creative friends, welcome to my channel and welcome to another Mrs. Wages Week video. This collaboration is so much fun. There's a group of us who just love Mrs. Wages and we've always talked about all the cool recipes we've made, and I thought, you know, we need to just do a whole week of videos doing all different kind of Mrs. Wages products. So in this video I am going to be doing the jalapeno pickle relish. Now there's a whole bunch of different Mrs. Wages mixes, and you'll want to make sure you go check in the description for the links to all the channels that are participating. Make sure you watch and comment on those videos, because in the end I'm going to send out a grand prize. We're going to do a random comment picker from the comments on all the videos for the week, and I've got a group of bunch of packets, different packets of Mrs. Wages that Mrs. Wages sent me. I called them and told them we were doing this collaboration, so they sent me a bunch of those, and I'm going to send those out as a prize. So make sure you go and you watch the videos and you comment. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to be doing this package of Mrs. Wages jalapeno pickle relish. I've done the pickle relish before, but I like the idea of the jalapeno in this. So what I need is, of course, I need a packet of the Mrs. Wages jalapeno pickle relish. I need 5 pounds of pickling cucumbers, and I've got those all washed and ready to go. 1 pound of jalapenos, which I've got those right here. 2 tablespoons of canning salt, and did you know that Mrs. Wages has their own canning salt? That's pretty awesome. And 2½ cups of Mrs. Wages white distilled vinegar, and make sure when you use vinegar it's always 5% acidity. That's what you need for safe canning. 2 cups of sugar and 1 pouch of the mix. And so what I'm going to do, first of all, following the directions, I've already got my jars and everything ready. So wash the cucumbers and jalapenos and then drain them. Okay, so I'm going to go make sure that those, I washed them, but they've been sitting on the counter for a little bit, so I'm going to wash everything because I'm going to start cutting it now. Let me get these out of the way because I'm going to need the space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the jalapenos and scoop the seeds out, because I don't want this to be terribly hot, because I'm going to be using this for a lot of different things. And although Brian and I do love a lot of heat and we like spicy, I don't know that other people will. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit by taking the seeds out of the jalapenos. And then I'm going to cut the jalapenos and the cucumbers. You want to cut the blossom end off and then cut those down into chunks. And you can put these in a food processor, or you can just use one of those choppers. However, but you want to chop these down into, it says here, cut 1/16 of the end of the blossom end off the cucumber and discard. Then cut the cucumbers and jalapenos into 1-inch pieces and place in a food processor. If you don't have one of those, you can use one of those choppy cutters. That would work too. And then it says process into small pieces like 1/8 of an inch, because we're talking relish here. So it needs to be like relish size, little tiny pieces. The smaller is best. Then we're going to put them all in a bowl and take the pickling canning salt and mix it with them. And that's going to cause it to sweat. So then those will go in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. When we come back, I'm going to drain those. Got my little drainer. I'm going to drain those, but you don't want to rinse it. That salt is good in there. So we'll drain it, and then we will move on to what we have to do at the stove, which is basically taking the vinegar and the sugar and the pouch and bring it to a boil, and then put all the things in it, let them process, and then we'll get to that point. But for now, I'm going to go wash the cucumbers again, and I'm going to wash the jalapenos, and I'm going to seed those, and then I'm going to cut everything down into little bits, put them in a food processor, and I'll come back when they're a little relish tiny. Okay, you can see I have run these through the food processor. I'll tell you what, if you were just chopping them, it'd be a lot. But I had left a little bit of seeds from the jalapenos in there so that I can have a little zippy. And you can see that there's already quite a bit of liquid coming off these cucumbers and zucchini or jalapenos. So now what Mrs. Wages wants me to do is to put the 2 teaspoons. Okay, it says process into small pieces and put in a bowl, which I did. Then stir in the Mrs. Wages pickling and canning salt and mix well. And then we have to cover and refrigerate it for 2 hours. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull all that extra moisture out of these. And then that way, when we drain it, it'll all that moisture will go off, and it won't make it so it'll get rid of all that extra moisture before we can it. So this is going to be perfect. So now what I'm going to do is give this a good mix. Then I'm going to put this in the fridge for a couple hours. Then we're going to come back and do the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would have said. And if you know who Paul Harvey is, then you're my generation. Or older. He was around a long time. Anyway, so now I've got this mixed up, and now I'm going to put it in the fridge for a couple hours. And when that's done, I'll be back. Okay, so this set in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, and that salt helps soak out, pull out all of that excess liquid. And then what I did, it says to strain it. It literally says on here, drain the mixture in a fine strainer to remove the excess juice. So what I did was I like this drainer because it's got these things and it'll sit over the sink. And then I lined it with cheesecloth to make it a fine strainer. And just a tip, if you ever want to strain something or, through cheesecloth, wet the cheesecloth first. Otherwise, it's got something with the surface tension and it will just hold, it won't let the liquid go through. So once it's wet, the liquid will go through. And so this is nice and drained. Now, it says the next part, which is the super simple, and we're almost done part, is, now we don't rinse that because the salt that's on there is important. Just leave it the way it is. Just let it drain as good as you can get it, and then you're done. So now we're going to combine the distilled white vinegar, sugar, and the contents of this packet in a non-reactive pan. So you don't want to use aluminum because you're working with vinegar here, and that's not a good thing. So 2.5 cups of vinegar, white vinegar, 5%, and then the vinegar, the sugar, which is the 2 cups of sugar, and then the contents of this packet. So we're going to throw that in there. I want to smell it. I'm a smeller. I like to smell these things. Ooh, it smells really good. Ooh, I like, and see, you can see in there all the dehydrated yumminess. It's all done for you. Like, that's the beautiful thing. You don't have to sit here and do all the chopping and all that stuff. So, and now I've mixed this, and it says bring just to a boil over medium heat, stirring constantly. Then we're going to add in that, the cucumber and jalapeno. So let me go get this boiling, and then I'll come back. Alright, I've got this over here, and I'm heating this up, and you can see it's just going to be beautiful. And actually, I have a few green ball jars when they came out with all the colors, and I never know what to use them for, so I'm going to use them for this. I've got maybe 3 or 4 of them in there, but I'm going to make sure that this can, I'm just going to keep stirring it. I'm going to bring it to a boil while I'm stirring it to make sure all that sugar is dissolved, and then we will add in the cucumbers. There we go. Alright, so I'll bring it back in just a sec. By the way, just a reminder, when you are heating something that is vinegar, don't lean over it and inhale. Like, I've done that before. My dad did that one time. It was very, very dangerous because he literally inhaled the vinegar fumes, and for years he had respiratory issues. It was bad. But yeah, always be careful when you're heating vinegar because the fumes are very, very hard on you if you should breathe them in. Okay, it's just coming to a boil. I don't know if you can see that. Look at all the little bits in there. So delicious. It smells wonderful, but you got to be careful smelling it because of the vinegar. So now it's just to a boil. I'll turn this down a little bit, and now I'm going to add in the cucumber jalapenos. Now we're just going to add those in there. There we go. Oops. I missed part of them. There we go. At least I caught it. These things, they happen. Okay. Now I'm going to mix this. Whoo, got it just right on their side. There we go, a little bit. Now I'm just going to mix this in, and I'm going to bring it up to a simmer, and I'm going to let it simmer for 10 minutes. Oh, this is going to be so yummy. Alright, so let me get that to a simmer and let it simmer for... Okay, so this simmered. I put that in there and I let it go. It looks so good and it smells wonderful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the jars out and I'm going to fill them up, and it's going to be to a 1/2 inch head space, I believe. Ladle the hot relish mixture carefully into hot jars, filling evenly. Leave a 1/2 inch headspace, and we'll remove the bubbles, put the rings on, and then when each jar is filled, these are processing in a boil water canner for 15 minutes. So if you want more information on the boil water canner part, I've got some videos on that, or you can, all of us have videos on boil water canning, but I'm just going to show you how to get this in the jars real quick. Okay, here we go. Ooh, I just heard something pop. Let me scoot this over and see if it's easier for you to see. I want you to see this going in the jar because it's so good. Let me scoot you. There you go. That's a better view. Now, oh man, this is going to be so good on hot dogs and sausages and all kinds of yummy things like that. Now, I do have a measuring tool for the headspace, but I know that a 1/2 inch is right to the bottom of that rim. So I'm going to scooch this around in there and get rid of some of those air bubbles. And this is just, oh, this looks so good. All the little bits in there are so good. I'm excited about having this on my shelf. So let me measure. Yeah, that's just 1/2 inch. It could go up a smidge more. I get a little tiny bit in there more. Headspace is very important because it calculates how the food rises. It expands when it's processing. So if you don't have the right headspace, you may not expel all the air, or you might expel some of the food. So you want to make sure 1/2 inch, perfect. Now I'm going to wipe the rim because you want to make sure that you don't have any food around the rim. This is also a good time if you can feel a chip in your rim. I've caught jars before. And then we're going to put the top on, and then I'm going to show you what this looks like close up because it looks so good. There we go. Doesn't that look delicious? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of the pints, and then I'm going to put these in the canner, and I'm going to let them go for 15 minutes, and then I'll bring you back. I just wanted to show you guys I did one of the green jars. So, let's just see how pretty is that. Looks really cool in the green jars. So, I'm going to fill the rest of them in green jars. Alright, I just got them out of the canner, and they look so good. Look at this relish. This is the clear jar. Isn't that beautiful? And this is how it looks in the green jars. I kind of like the green jars for things like this. Doesn't that look pretty? I'm so excited about this, and I am so excited that we're doing this Mrs. Wages collaboration, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. And if you want us to do it every single year, be sure and let me know because this is a fun one to do. And I hope you're watching everybody else's videos. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.